How's everybody doing? Woo! Are we doing this again? You guys gotta wake up. How is everyone doing? Oh yeah, that's what we like. Hello everyone. We are Roto Entertainment Media. We're very excited to be here. How many of you were in New Orleans and get to see our talk last year? Okay, that's gonna be exciting. We're down a couple of empty seats. Okay, we can do better. All right, so let's get started. We're an entertainment and media company built on the art of creating impossible. So what do? We harness the power of the real-time pipeline tools and craft captivating transmedia experiences that span film, games, and simulations. So today, we would like to give you a glimpse of how our art department works and also give you a little background how musicians, professional musicians like us, turn into filmmakers, game developers, and then problem-solving transmedia ninjas. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you our head of visual department, Charles Logan.
Thank you very much. So, my name is Charles Logan. I'm the head of visual development for Roto Entertainment. My job mainly consists of taking a project from pre-production to production and post-production and making sure the directors and the creators' vision aligns throughout the whole production process. So, how do we work with transmedia? Transmedia is a new term, but it is essentially what multimedia essentially refers to. So how Roto artists work across transmedia is that we have managed to cultivate a very fluid team that required to adapt to the flexible business needs of Roto Entertainment. The past couple of years have been extremely rough in the entertainment industry, and I'm 100% sure every single one of you knows somebody who has been affected by the layoffs and the changing landscape of this behemoth of an industry. So what we have decided to do across our history of the past 10 years is to cultivate great talent from companies like IBM, Capcom, DreamWorks, and try to put together a team that we could throw at anything. So that was one of the biggest challenges of the past couple of years in coming up with that. So how do we navigate this landscape? So because of this extreme vast background of the team, we've been able to basically take a look at how do we identify the needs of creators and directors and what is going to be the final output like? Is it going to be for TV, film, LED volumes, or is it going to be for games and simulations? Or is it going to be just strictly computer-generated virtual production? So to navigate that and accommodate those needs, we needed to come up with a great pipeline. So how do we do all this? Well, as you can see across this little diagram, Unreal Engine is centric to every single thing we do. Once we start our pre-visualization, it's centric to the animatics. So usually we will start with pen and pencil drawings, storyboards, and we stick to that about maybe the 5% of the production. From there, we jump directly into Unreal Engine, start gray boxing, doing the layout art as much as possible. We pride ourselves in being generalists. While we have great team leaders for character, environment, concept teams, we love the idea of having a generalist team that can mold into different needs for every single thing. So from animatics, we go directly into production using different types of DCCs such as 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, ZBrush, Gaia, which we will talk about a little bit more in a little bit. But everything always goes into Unreal Engine. So from there, we start to work with what the final output is going to look like. So for LED volume and for TV, film, and ICVFX, we will be working with our scene operators. For example, we have a wonderful virtual production partner in Orbital Studios, who are also in the room with us. So let's give them a little shout out. We work with wonderful studios such as them and provide them with VAD support. Or for games and simulations, we work with our technical directors and technical artists to make sure their needs are met for every single asset that they handle. And for virtual production, we try to utilize lots of the movie render queue and render passes for whatever the scene assembly is going to need. So it all really depends on how we're going to navigate that landscape. And how do we start pre-visualization? That's a good word. visualizations. So we start our progress really early. So our whole team puts a big effort early on to show some rapid progress. We are led by our producers, such as Sebastian Serrano, here in the crowd, who lead us with great technical production and make sure that we are always in time with our project's needs. If you look on the line below, you see the producers go through with us at every single point. They act as liaisons between us and the directors and the production designers for everything that they need. And we try to fail early. So that is one of the things that we want to do the most. We want to show the client what they don't want to see. So they fail, and that way we can see what works the best early on. And we try to make fluid decisions, right? Because early on, you don't want to get stuck to certain things. And the great power of Unreal Engine is the fact that it's real time. And we can make some decisions on the go without waiting for render time and all that stuff. We get Zoom calls with our creators, directors, and once we make certain changes directly on the fly, they get mind blown because it's a brand new world right now. So we try to always leave room for artistic creativity until the day of pre-light, or if we're doing games, it's all the way until the production goes gold, or if it's the virtual production, until the day of render, right? So that's how we go. This is a little example we have over here for a project that we worked on. So as you can see, it starts with drawing previs with animatics, and from there we go directly into Unreal Engine, and we spent about 90% of the time directly in Unreal Engine following the previs. We have some little examples that we worked with Orbital over here. We created a landscape for one of the redacted shoots that we can't talk about, but we can show certain things. And how do we navigate this, right? We talked about different little platforms, these different columns, these different pillars, and you will see some commonality across all of these. So we try to keep an open communication with our producers at all times. That's the first thing. The clear communication is king because art is one of the most subjective fields that you can ever be in, right? Somebody will like certain things, somebody will not like it. But trying to keep the communication as clear as possible, so there's very little guesswork happening. And from there, it's clear discovery, right? We want to be in sessions with our producers, with the directors and creators, and make sure we get the really large, big picture image down as much as we can. And for LED volumes, it's working with the studio, the technical directors, the production designers. For games, it's with our technical directors and level designers. And for virtual production, we still work with production designers and directors, right? And what is the last thing? Understanding all the limitations. What is the workflow like for if you're working with a stage operator and you want to know what they can handle so we always prepare with that in mind. For games and simulations, you target specific frame rates on specific devices, so you always keep that in mind. For virtual production, the same, and you try to understand how the scene assembly will happen, how do we prepare the render passes, and everything like that, right? So that's always in there. Unreal Engine comes in. And from there, we basically start to see, all right, how do we create these environments for these projects? And this is just one of the ways that there's multiple teams out there that know how to skin a cat, right? And this is just basically one of the ways that we found that's extremely useful. It's going to be a little technical breakdown that our great environment artist Hussein is going to be working on. So why don't you come up here, Hussein, and show us some more?
Okay. Actually, one thing that before Hussein starts, I would like to wake everyone up. Hussein, I know that there's a lot of people in the crowd that haven't met with us. Why don't we play our reel first, and then we get into our technical talk right after that.
Oh, baby, say your prayers, how I feel.
All right. Lumen keeps getting better.
Yep. Okay, hey everyone, here's me, Hussein Chalan, lead environment lighting artist at Roto Entertainment, or you can call me Huso. Okay, so environment creation. Environment creation has been one of the most important things when we work on any project, because it's really get into any either virtual production, games, simulation. So environments can be translated in a very different ways. So environments need to be very procedural, and your workflow need to be very flexible, because we're very tight with deadlines and edits. For example, if you're going to work on a virtual production project and the director on the day of the shooting decide to change anything for the environment, are we going to adapt all these changes in a very short time without wasting anyone's time? So when it comes to creating an environment, one of the most important things that we see that bring the most of the realism that you're going to get is collecting the right and the perfect reference for everything. So here's one of the examples that we use for gathering references, either using Google Earth to get all the angles and how big is the landscape is, and all the details that you may need for the dimensions, coordinates, everything. And from personal preference, sometimes I play Microsoft Flight Simulator and try to fly over the area that I'm going to capture to get the right dimensions and know how my landscape will going to look like when I bring it in engine. So this is a very useful way when I'm trying to work in environments in any project. So after this, we get the whole general idea for the details, from micro details to medium details and large details for the landscape. We need to translate all this data inside Unreal Engine. So here's the thing. There's two ways for workflows for working on a landscape. You can create it from scratch in Gaia or Unreal Engine or whatever the tool that you're working with. And what if we need to bring a real location inside our landscape? And because some project, for example, if we're working on a game that we need to bring a real location inside this game, like the game we're working on, the Ancient Port games, we need to bring a real location that already exists. And what if we work on a virtual production project and the director wants to bring Everest or Grand Canyon? How are we going to bring all this data inside the engine? There is a lot of workflows to bring a real location inside the engine, but most of them are very complex and sometimes lack of details and the resolution that we're going to get out. So we got that solution that's very clever. Sometimes it gives us the ease or the fun part of using Unreal Engine, because Unreal Engine we all used of, and we get a very fun time, having very fun time while working on this engine. So this solution would be in Cesium, but how are we going to use Cesium? Cesium is simply a plugin that you can find in Marketplace, Epic Games, and you can import it to the engine, and it's available for all the version of the engine. And it's streaming all the geodata from the Earth, because it's collaboration with Maxar, Google Earth, so you have all this geodata from the real locations. And it's very accurate. It comes with textures, it comes with the height map. But the question right here, how are we going to bring the height map into Gaia and into a landscape that we're going to work on? Simply, we use the Unreal Engine in order to capture everything. So, for example, I'm going to work in the fantastic California mountains. And all I need to do is go to the Google Earth, copy the coordinates that I'm going to work with, and then import all this information to Cesium properties, and then we will have a stream of the area that we're going to work on. But the question will be here, how am I going to get out all the height map because it doesn't come with the plugin? Here is a very simple answer. By simply going to add a camera. This camera will be an IMAX sensor, so it has to be a perfect cube. And then we will attach an image plane with 1:1 ratio, so we need the dimensions to be even. And then we will have a 100mm lens to it, so we will not get any stretches or any lens distortions. That's from the testing that we did, that's the perfect settings for the camera you're going to use. And we're going to attach the image plane as we can see, so we can get the orange borders so we know exactly what's our camera capturing. And after this, there's two benefits for using this solution. First thing, we're going to get the textures out of the landscape that we're going to use later, either for texturing in Gaia or Unreal Engine. And the most important thing, we're going to get the height map. So right here, we can see an example for this material that we can assign easily on our CSIM properties for there is override material that you can add to it. This material is very simple. It reads the Z depths, and you have a cheap contrast node that controlling the contrast between black and white levels, and you can crush it. As you can see, you can move around with your camera and select the area that you see perfect, and you can change the position of your camera from the Z-axis, so you can get more details or less details if you want a bigger capture. After this, we get the height map, the height data that we need. That's a comparison between the Google Earth preview and how it looks in Gaia. And from this stage, I want to thank Dax and the Quest Spinner team for their hard work in Gaia 2, because we're going to see how efficient Gaia works with Unreal Engine 5. And all we need right here to capture the data from Unreal Engine by simply open the high resolution screenshots from the engine and export 4K, 2K, whatever the resolution you want. And as we can see here, the Unreal export and the texture map, that's all we need. After this, we're getting the compressed data from the screenshot we take. We need to upraise it in order to get more micro details and more detailed landscapes. So as we can see here, let me start this from the beginning. That's all the steps that we follow in order to bring our landscape details again. Because sometimes when we get data out of Cesium, sometimes it's not that much detailed. So we add erosion and weathering, snow, all of these things. Also the texturing and the texture maps and the weight maps, all the details that we need in order to bring our landscape again back to life. And all of these steps that you do based on the references that we collected, that's the important thing. When you collect the right reference and all the range you need, you have an idea how the small area will look like and how the big area will look like. After this, we can take the advantage of using Quixel's Megascans displacement in order to integrate it as one more layer on top of our landscapes in order to get the micro details for rocks, for sand, or whatever the type of the mountain that you're going to use. After all of this and our mountain is ready, how are we going to bring all of these things inside Unreal? Before, in order to import your landscape, you need to export all this height map data and then do the equation, how I can translate the dimensions from Gaia to Unreal to the kilometers that I need. Right now, it's done with ease of a click of a button. As we can see here, in Gaia 2, we have a node called Unreal Engine. All you need is to hook all your outputs, start from height map, weight maps, and all the things that you need to do. And then open the plugin Gaia Landscape Importer, and all you need is to assign the JSON file. After assigning the JSON file, you will have an option for a landscape material. This landscape material, with enabling the edit layers that I will talk about it later, and assign the landscape material that we're going to use, Unreal Engine can read all the weight maps and all the layers, and with a click of a create landscape, Unreal Engine will import everything for you. After this, there's certain important textures that we see that's very important to have, which is the height map, and also you can use a mixer node in Gaia in order to mix different textures, so we can save resources either on disk on Unreal Engine or when we stream these textures. Because if you're going to work with project size and the disk size, all of these things, it's better to compress all your images in one image as an RGB mask. As we can see here, we have the snow, dirt, weathering, and that's for the layers, the important layers. And the other map will be for texture blending, and I'm going to talk about it later. So we have the texturizer, flow, and curvature. And for the water, we have the river mask, and there's something called BCG PIAM. BCG PIAM, one of the features that's been released to 5.4, that's very useful, that you can spawn different types of foliages based on zones, and all these zones you can create it while you're creating your landscape in Gaia, and then export it as an RGB mask. After this, if I have a very good landscape sculpting and I have very good landscape data with the bad textures, everything will be ruined. So in order to maintain the full image and get the final pixel as best as it should be, you have to get a very good blending between the textures and the most important, good texturing colors. So in order to make things simple and make things handy, you don't need too many layers in order to get a very detailed landscape. All you need is your main layer, which will be the grass, for the example that we're showing right here, and we have the flow layer, dirt, mud, road, and water. And the last 3 layers, it's optional. It's not a need for the landscape, but it's for telling the story that we're going to say. After this, we need to use the resources we have in a clever way. Rather than adding too much blending, too much layers, everything needs to be done in a very efficient way. So for example, we will take the grass layer that we have here, and we're going to blend different types of textures of the grass with using the first mask. So we can use a type of grass in the blue channel, another type in the red channel, and another type in the green channel. So we will have different types of textures in the same one layer, because we all know if we take a look of any landscape, you can't find the even color or even type of textures across a very long distance. After this, in order to get things for a next level, there is a very clever node in Gaia called Texturizer. Texturizer simply takes your height map data and then translates it to 2D geomask. This 2D geomask, as we can see right here, we can use it to differentiate the brightness for the values that we're going to use, or the hue colors, or you can use it the way that you see correct. But the most important is gives us a variation in our landscape for a very long distance, so things can be repeatable. After this, we have PCG. PCG been a very useful feature that came to Unreal Engine 5 for the past couple versions that make things more efficient and more easy than it is. So there's a lot of types of PCG that I found out. There's PCG PIAMs, as I talked about it, that all you need is differentiate the zones. If we have a large landscape for a game or for a cinematic, and you want to add pine trees in a space and rock, and if we have a swamps and all of the things, rather than doing things by hand or in a manual old way or the foliage type, everything you need to set all the graph and all the types and variation you need to do, and click regenerate PCG, so things can be easy. Also, what if I need to do changes on the fly on my PCG? There is something called PCG based on spline. We can create a spline and select the area that we want to spawn the specific biome, and then Unreal Engine will do the rest. And what if I want to change it? Simply selecting one of the points on the spline and move this point, and everything can be regenerated. So PCG was one of the most efficient features that we found out during the projects that we worked on in very different clients that saved a lot of time and a lot of money with production. So after this, important landscape tips that wrapping things up and give things as a brief. One of the things that I see that gives more details to our layers, which is using fuzzy shading to your grass. So in a distance, grass have a subsurface scattering, but at the same time, I can't spawn all my grass meshes across the whole landscape. So in order to simulate the same feeling, we use the fuzzy shading for grass. And then there is a runtime virtual texture that can get for us virtual texture based on the height map and the texture albedo map from our landscape, and help us to blend our meshes together. After this, we our master material need to be customizable and very flexible. As we was saying that flexibility makes things way easier. So that's one of the things. Make all your parameters controllable. Make all the things easy to access anytime for all the team, so anyone can open the material, able to read it, and change it on the fly. After this, use landscape displacement. After the last 2 versions of Unreal Engine, landscape displacement became a feature again because we missed it a lot after we lost it in the Unreal Engine 5. So happy news that we got this again, and we can bring all the crisp details that we have for each layer again based on nanite and displacement. BCG and BCG biomes, and if we're going to use a large-scale word partition, large-scale landscape, we can use word partition for this. So after this, we can build the HLODs, and Unreal Engine can optimize the landscape if we're going to use this for games or for a cinematics. So things can be easy if we're going to render, so we will not kill our machines as we always do. After this, there's something called GeoAlphas. But what is GeoAlphas? GeoAlphas, basically, you create a alpha brush in Gaia, like mountains, without the edges of it, everything softened in the edges, and import these textures inside Unreal Engine. Because what if I get the edit that I need to elevate this landscape right now, or I need to carve this landscape right now? Should I bring everything back to the engine? No. To the Gaia? No, it's waste of time. So in order to have this, we have the same regions and the same rock layers, and we use the landscape brush in order to assign this texture to it and change it. Also, create static background landscapes, part of the landscape that already created. Take the same textures and the same graph that already created, and then populate all surroundings with landscape meshes that can be used in a very different way. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 3 types of meshes, and you can run it across the whole landscape. After this, we will show some of the environment examples, and when we use all these things that we talked about it here in this video. Thanks a lot, and get back to Charlie and Amir.
Perfect. Thank you. So, while Charlie's preparing, I would love to play one more video since there are so many new faces here. I think this last video before we get into Q&A would give you guys a little clarity of what we do. This year we choose to go a little bit more technical. Hope you guys bearing with us, but we're gonna have questions, and our timing are running down. But at the end, we would be happy to diving into any more questions with you.
The process of working with Rotu is different, as it needs to be, than any other group that I've worked with. The most amazing thing to me, and I've been involved with some pretty major productions, but to see them respond so quickly, not the next day, but while I'm sitting there, but they're showing our characters being manipulated in a terrain that they're changing on the fly. Yeah, it's a whole new game. It's been an incredible journey, and I feel like we've only just begun.
So when I got the idea for Midnight Jaunt, I thought this was a great way to challenge them in the terms of creating this content. You know, I hate to say it's things that haven't been done before, but we were actually doing things that hadn't been done before, integrating miniatures into our background.
There's been some video calls that have transpired between creatives and Rotu and us. Whoever the creative is will say, It would be nice if it was like, you know, we had some pink flowers here, and then boom, there's pink flowers there on the same video call.
I love working with LED screens and virtual production. And recently I got to work with a music video for Haley Reinhart, and they're really terrific and moved so quickly, and just variables that we kept coming up with. And it was a great experience.
For me, there were two moments that happened really spoke to how profound Roto is and what they do. So one of the first meetings was, here's the idea, and here's a few Photoshop illustrations from a while ago. A few days later, those set pieces, those illustrations, were turned into, specifically in this case, alien worlds. And it was mind-blowing because it's within Unreal Engine, and I'm watching on my screen for the first time. And we've been sitting on this project for a while. And then the second meeting was now when they took the creatures, they had rigged it and animated it, not as just a walk cycle. It recognized its environment. They made it AI. They just wanted to show us what it is they need to do to help us tell the story. That was incredible. And those two moments for me are a game changer in terms of my hope and expectation on future projects. If it's not with Roto, then everyone else is gonna have to live up to the benchmark that they've established. So,
working in real time opening up a lot of possibilities. So we understand the power of seeing your ideas come to life for the first time and how it can rally a team around a project. We extract and execute early creative visions, turning them into real-time worlds that can be a source of inspirations, especially during the early phases of a project when the script isn't even final yet. Our dynamic creative collaboration process can help the entire production identify the precise budgets and artistic deliverables needed to get the job done.
When we first engaged with Roto for a virtual production project, I'm used to the visual effects world. I was thinking, all right, in like 2 weeks, they'll get back to us with maybe a gray box comp. And literally the next day, we had a pretty good version of the first project that we were gonna do. I mean, I could have shot it that day. Their ability to iterate so quickly is just incredible. And for us, you know, the whole thing with virtual production is to try to be as efficient as possible, and they make that efficiency 10x.
Well, everyone, thank you so much. This has been absolutely pleasure. Thank you so much. If you guys have any question, we'll be here.
Definitely find us.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.